is misdirected, dharma that is utilized for personal gain. You know, it's not, that's real dharma, shuddha dharma, sanatana dharma is acting without desire for personal gain. And Krishna paints the whole Bhagavad Gita in such a way as to, you know, bring out that point. You'll find if you look at the Bhagavad Gita and look at the end of almost every chapter, he concludes in different ways about, you know, you should surrender to me. You should do what I say, because I'm Bhagwan. You know, I know all these things. And then in that one chapter, he shows the Virata Rupa, and Arjuna bows down and begs Krishna to come back to his original form, because the Virata Rupa is too terrible to see. All the worlds are being consumed and destroyed before Arjuna's eyes. And so Arjuna is too much for Arjuna to deal with. It's like if we look out into the sky at night and we have a very clear sky, it's absolutely unlimited, you know. We can't possibly count all the stars. It's like beyond us.
So like we are in present, it says whatever going to happen is already decided. So while we are in present, if we do good karma, so can we change it, or it's pre-decided what's going to happen? And if I'm meant to be here, it's decided already that day I'm going to be here. Or
right. No, that's what I'm saying. That there's you know, karma going on based on how we've acted in the past. There's mixtures of sattva, rajas, and tamas. And it's all kind of mixed up, and we have different degrees within us. And based on those things that we've done in the past, you know, harming or helping different living beings, we get different degrees of pleasure and pain that come to us automatically. But within all that, there's the living being, like behind the ahankara in this case, that still the will of the living being to act is there. And that factor comes into play, which makes it that things are not predetermined. Things are, to some extent, predetermined, but ultimately the individual has a choice. In other words, the guy with a gun, who by his karma is supposed to kill someone, he has a choice. He can decide, I don't want to do that, and put the gun away. He has a choice. In every action, there's always a choice. And so depending on those actions, you go in different directions. If you choose to kill, then in the next life you get killed, or some life in the future, by the same guy, or somehow or other. Unless that guy has somehow or other dissolved his karma and gotten free from the cycle of samsara, which is the means is bhakti, but there's also the means of shankara, which is rising up by tapasya, withdrawing from the world. And they can go to Brahman, to Brahmajyoti, and be there for some time, but then they have to come back. Did you understand what predetermined means? You do? All right. Okay. So, what was I saying? They rise up into the Brahmajyoti, but because they remain, they retain their identity, even though they appear to be merged, they eventually, because the living being has desire, you know, ultimately it's desire to love, and that love is meant for Krishna. So that living being who's merged in the Brahmajyoti, based on his tapasya, he's like sleeping, and eventually he's going to wake up and realize, whoa, I got to go back down to really experience my life. And they'll return. And, you know, based on their different positions, I think what it says is mostly they come to Brahma's place. And from there, they have choices. And whether they go, upwards through understanding about Bhakti and Krishna, or they go back into the cycle of samsara based on accumulating things for themselves, getting things for their enjoyment, and so on. So so what I'm saying is, basically, the way to leave behind samsara, the best way advised by Krishna, beyond just artificial withdrawal. He says that kind of artificial withdrawal is just the flip side of the coin of material accumulation and gratification. It means, okay, I'm going to enjoy, and the flip side is, I'm not going to enjoy, but I'm going to get something for myself. And that's the highest, the pinnacle of getting away from the source of my suffering. It's like it's personally motivated still. That's the point. And the objective of bhakti and the ultimate destination of to people who are engaged in bhakti is to reach that point of being fully fully surrendered and fully pure without any personal desire for any type of gain or any type of personal calculation, personal enjoyment. That's the freedom that we have before us, and the challenge is to, by contacting the mantra, like he was saying, by contacting the mantra, specifically Hare Krishna mantra, the taste of the mantra enables one to withdraw from the material energy. You just feel better things, and it comes about through the Gita says, Krishna says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. That just approach with submission. Tad vidhi pranipatena, do vidhi, do practice. Pranipatena, approach humble, sincerely, bowing down. Pariprashnena sevaya, and inquire with submission, pariprashna, and sevaya, render service, and then upilakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. The one who knows, who's seen the truth, he can give it to you. So you have to approach in that way. Like, I'm a person who is trying to understand, but I don't know. So I'm inquiring from you to see if through you I can begin to understand. In that kind of mood, not in a mood of, I want to question you because I really don't believe this. That's not going to get anywhere. You have to open your heart, pariprashna, pranipatena, and seva. The heart is opened, and then the one who sees the truth can give you the truth, and that is the final verdict that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita in the final chapter. Just give everything to me, and I will save you. What is it? How does it go? Sarva dharmam prityaga. You give up all notions of dharma. Sarva dharmam prityaga. Mam ekam sharanam braja. You just surrender, give everything to me. Mam ekam sharanam braja. Ahang twang sarva papebhyo. I will save you from all pap, from all sins. Moksha yashami ma shuchaha. In me, you will find liberation. You will find freedom. So the real kind of moksha is moksha that comes about by cleansing oneself of any desire, even the desire for moksha. It's kind of like paradoxical. Like if you really want something, you have to give up that wanting. And the only way to do it is by positively acting in service. And then the natural impulse then is to surrender and naturally give up these things. So like I've been saying to you, that the whole thing happens in a natural way. The more you contact that higher plane, the more you'll just automatically transform, because inside you really are a soul, and the soul really does have a nature, and it really does have a relationship with the Supreme Soul. It's indicated everywhere in every scripture in the world that there's some relationship that we can develop with that Supreme Person. A relationship of love. Some of them emphasize servitude with some love. The Old Testament is very heavy, bow down or I'll kill you, that sort of stuff. But we find that, that kind of necessity in presentation of religion is just a preliminary stage at best. It doesn't, it gets people to follow, but it doesn't begin to bring out a loving relationship. So that comes at a stage where you begin to, by your own free will, like we were talking about, by your own free will, you begin to make the choice to, to try to give yourself. Like you're coming every night, you're choosing. It's your free will. Your karma may say you're supposed to go to the pub.
I always say when I step out from my door, 4 minutes, if I turn right, I go to pub. 4 minutes, if I turn left, I landed here. Exactly. If I step out, 4 minutes, I'm on the same step, right side, left side. And I attach to how I know every day when I come, I get more closer and more closer and more closer. Where somehow in my past I cut off myself from religious practice, maybe influenced by the material world, or the biggest reason I believe I have few questions and I couldn't get the answers.
Yes.
When I didn't get the answer, I look for another way to find the answer, whereas I stop going to the religious places wherever I used to.
Yes.
Because sometimes the question came into my mind, the God represented to me by different sources is not the real one. They are their own God and they created one for their own benefits. So I have to look for a real one. Because I do not believe that if it says God is one, then there shouldn't be any enmity. If my dad and your dad is saying why we are still fighting it.
Right, and if God made this whole place and we all are God, why are we killing each other and causing so much suffering? It doesn't make sense. You're right.
Something they are mistaken. Either it's an interpretation or their level of understanding is not very much as it should be.
Well, that notion actually has, it has defects, because, naturally we want to have a place where we love and where we enjoy. And you think God, who's this, we read in the Upanishads and everywhere else, that he's all-knowing, he's behind everything. He has to make a world where he comes down here and suffers. No, he's already made his transcendental world where everyone enjoys. It's there. And this is the place where people go who, make the conscious choice, ultimately not to love and not to, surrender to the supreme will of Krishna. And Krishna is so kind that in that surrender, he still allows the individual to have identity. And that identity is, described then, from living in the Vaikuntha realm as a servant of Narayan to living in living in Dwarka with Krishna, in different, there's different combinations of moods that are there in Dwarka, not as developed as Vrindavan. And then Mathura is the next level, where Krishna kills Kamsa and takes over and rules. And it's getting closer to Vrindavan, so there's more of the beginning of development of more stages of different varieties of love. And then coming to Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, the highest plane, in that plane there's different stages of pure relationship with Krishna, where everybody just plays with Krishna, or takes care of Krishna, or loves Krishna. It's I told you this already, I think. One philosopher, I think a British philosopher, I think so, was looking at all the different, all the variety of the gods in India, and everybody had a duty to do except Krishna. So he figured Krishna must be the highest. And it's true. Everybody's got a duty. Shiva's meditating. Who's he meditating on? He's in charge of Tamoguna and so many other things. And Brahma's doing creation, and the Vishnu form is overseeing the Sattvic range, and everybody's got some job except Krishna. And Krishna is just engaged in love. And he's the one behind everything. That's the vision that's given to us by our our Vaishnava guides. And not only that, but there's vast range of scriptures that describe the nature, both the nature of progress out of this world, the process of purification, and also the nature of when we reach that plane of purity, what happens and how we continue to grow and develop into different relationships with Krishna, based not on just Krishna's will, but based also on our own nature and our own transcendental desire. It's like both are there, because Krishna gives love and consideration to his devotees. And it's said that when the devotee loves Krishna, Krishna comes under their control. Krishna is carrying some of the cowherd boys on his shoulders. And, they're all massaging his feet when he's sleeping. They're all naturally serving him. But he also places himself in a position where, he's apparently under. Like the head of the Gopas is, technically he's above Krishna in that order, because Krishna is kind of hiding his position as God, so that others will, play with him. Otherwise, if you're before God, you bow down.
Yeah, you cannot.
Yeah, so that way it's called Yoga Maya. Here we have Mahamaya, which deludes us into thinking that we can control the material energy around us, and then there's Yoga Maya that deludes the devotees and even Krishna himself to some extent to believe that there's Vishnu is ultimately God and Krishna is just a really special boy. Maybe he's a Devata or something. They're thinking like that. So it's beyond the range of our comprehension, and to accept that notion, it's a bit of a long journey, I think. But just to begin to consider the possibility, of the reality of those things which are beyond our rational mind, to begin to accept that. Like the Bible says, you must accept that God can put a camel through the eye of a needle, right? So we're basically saying the same thing. Krishna can do what he wants. So, read Srimad Bhagavatam and go through it and see all the activities of his great devotees. and come to the stage where, in the 10th skanda, where Krishna's relations with all his devotees are described. And it's instructed that we should read the Srimad Bhagavatam from the first skanda, the first canto, up to the 9th, through the 9th, and then begin the 10th, which describes Krishna's pastimes. After having the first 9 kind of under our belt, as it were, and to give like proper context to our understanding of Krishna's pastimes. Otherwise, without that basic orientation, we won't be able to really understand what Krishna is doing. And naturally, through reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the beginning, you get some purification also. It just comes naturally. If you read with or hear, better to hear, but if you read with sincerity and desire to like receive that knowledge, as opposed to like gain the knowledge for your own acquisition. I want to be able to quote so many shlokas so people will be impressed or something. No, you read because you want to become.
Just myself, it's not.
Yeah, you want to.
The world or telling anybody.
Yeah, you want to be.
I try to hide my book sometimes. I don't want to tell anybody what I read.
Yeah.
I carry book in coffee shop. So front page I always flipped up. I don't want to tell what I'm doing. It's like, as you mentioned, we are not just reading it, but grasping it. It's like when I read, for me, I feel like somebody reading it to me. And I'm sitting there, it's like my whole senses are there at the same time. At the same time, sometimes read when I was studying. So we flip the page and we don't even understand what we go through. Our mind is somewhere else. So I try to gather my whole senses in one place.
Yes.
Because every single word I don't miss a single word. Even if it's in one line a day, I should have, okay, at least I grasp what I read.
That's very wonderful, yeah. That's because, we have to like, it's a process of worship, really.
Yeah, I feel myself lucky that I got the opportunity to have clear view what I am doing. Whereas sometimes people do stuff and they do not know why they're doing it. They're just reading the book, just to read it and grab some knowledge. People get knowledge, but they don't live with that knowledge. If I have the knowledge to do something, and I know it's good, but at the same time I'm not living with it. As I said, do not love Maya.
Yeah.
Still I'm doing it.
Yes.
I'm fighting for the overtime and gathering and getting into more material work.
Yeah.
Whereas I know deep down, which this is not good for me.
Yes.
So, then how we can get more trust? Like it's a trust, belief. I may be not saying the exact word. Like a child, 5-year-old, when he carries his papa's this pinky small finger, he don't care if he cross the road, he enjoy whatever. So that kind of
fully dependent.
I want with. So okay, I'm free. Free in the sense I have no second thought, no scared from anything bad gonna happen. Sometimes this views comes in our mind.
Yeah.
Something like a child. He don't know what is good or what is bad, what is painful, what is sorrow, what is happening. He's just living in that moment.
That's very good.
How I can develop that relation with the...
Yeah, you have some sense, maybe from previous birth, maybe from your childhood when you were taught things. But, the idea is that children, in their innocence and in their dependence on their mother and their father, they kind of reflect and show to us, something that's probably the closest thing to what it is to be spiritually dependent. And, it's mentioned, particularly by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his songs, that, to become dependent on God like that and to give everything, to like feel like this is my house, but this is Krishna's house. And I'm just taking care of it for him. This is Krishna's family, but I'm taking care of them for him. To be thinking in that way fully dependent on Krishna as your best friend, who really is right next to you, and living your life like that, then you're free. So that's our objective. That's our aim, and we hear about it from the great souls all the time. We sing these songs every day, and there's many different ones, but we sing them, every week we sing one particular song for sure. And that one song I'm thinking about, we sang a few days ago. So the idea is we get reminded of where we're going and the means through which we can go there, and an understanding of our surroundings, our environment, and what we need to do to make progress. And that's called sambandha, means understanding what's what in terms of things around me and how I relate to the Supreme based on my particular job in the world. And like I was saying the other day, you can relate in a way that you pray to understand that you've been placed in your particular situation, not accidentally, and not only by the law of karma, but actually Krishna is behind it. And because it's really true, because Krishna is the Lord of Maya. He openly says it. So the one behind the karma, the modes of nature that bind us, the gunas, is Krishna, ultimately. So if we transfer our consciousness away from matter and towards Krishna, we more and more, the more we transfer our consciousness to Him, the more we realize that whatever's happening is happening by His grace. He's my friend. So you do become free of fear, like a child. Because Krishna's always there. So there's nothing to worry about. But right now, we're separated from Him. We've made a choice to try to live an existence that's not based on full giving to Him and full surrender, but is based on, our own stuff. So first we have to acknowledge that idea that, okay, I've made a mistake. Now I have to learn how to rectify that mistake. And, the avatars come for that reason. There's, we find, Christ descended. He's an avatar. Muhammad descended. He's an avatar. They come from the higher planes to teach. And maybe both Shakti-Avesh avatar, empowered living beings, like Srila Prabhupada was. Jai Mahaprabhu Jai Giriraj Ju Ki Jai. Yeah, so anyway, these incarnations, avatars, or great realized souls are always there if you want them. It's true.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm in an orphanage, and when we see somewhere kids in orphanage, they just play whatever they want to. Then suddenly one parents come to adapt. That parents I consider as God. Whereas they go, it's like the world we are in.
Yeah.
We have material bonding and biological and other means.
Yeah,
which is sufficient for our survival in this planet. But by our own back, we are just not born here to work and go to sleep forever one day. Right. There's more to human life than just that. That's like that's the beginning conclusion that a person who wants to awaken in spiritual life has to conclude. I'm a human. I can think. I can ask. Why? What is the purpose of my existence? I don't have to just work and eat and sleep and mate and defend like the animals. I can do more than that. Animals do the same. Yeah, they right. Families, they look after families when they grow. But that's the difference between human and yeah. And so you look around and you see there's all different degrees of people living their lives in different degrees of inner connection and in different degrees of outer types of acquisition.
interconnection, maybe something real there in terms of a connection with God. Maybe a very small percent, maybe more than that, who knows. But then people are acting within with the gunas, and good, sattvic, rajasic, Prabhupada translated as passionate, or like highly ambitious, you know, like that. And then tamas, more like giving up on working hard in the material world, but rather just kind of going off into just, Prabhupada used the term sloth, but it's also, you know, just becoming an addict and all, you know, all things like that. The tamas goes in that direction. And as you go lower, you also have less and less of a chance to perceive, you know, this chance that we have in human life. You get totally caught up in the world around you, just the necessity to survive. But everybody, due to their you know, sinful activities, goes and gets reaction for those sinful activities, maybe in lower regions, maybe here, but eventually everybody comes back to the same point, and that's the point where they begin to have the choice. You know, do you want to seek a way to understand who you really are? And people are brought to that point, and some people just turn away and just say, oh, I can't deal with that right now. And they go away, and maybe they're off for lifetimes. But eventually everybody comes back.
Go away from back to the normal material world?
Yeah, just back into the cycle of samsara. But everyone comes to the point where they have a choice, where they can decide, okay, I'm going to start on the path of, you know, leaving this world behind and beginning to realize that who I really am is a servant of Krishna, and I'm just going to try to follow the practices as best I can, even a little bit, with knowledge that, you know, with an understanding that just by coming in contact with that higher spiritual energy, you'll gradually be transformed. That's what Mahaprabhu, that's the whole thing that he said, is just take the holy name, and it will free you. And our gurus say like that also. Just take the holy name. If you begin to chant, once you begin chanting, that mantra will always bring you back to hear it again. And then you've heard it twice, and then 3 times, then 4 times. And eventually you begin to be more and more motivated to really ask deeper questions. And then you hear it more, and you hear it more. And your life begins to, you know, change. Not changing, like in a sense of what your job is and what your family is or anything like that, but changing in terms of how you view the world. Yeah.
I see more clarity.
Yeah.
It's like there's no darkness anymore. There's no. Sometimes we are going somewhere and we are not sure where we're going and what we're going to get. So in that terms, my visuality, visible, is almost very much clear. There's no foggy and no darkness anymore there. And as for mantra is concerned, I feel so close to mantra. It's always there in my mind.
Yes.
And
you're fortunate.
When I come,
yeah.
I was like, okay, wait for Aarti, then especially on Saturday.
Yeah.
This Saturday was
that's a very good day, huh?
Aarti chanting a mantra and that was something I never had that experience.
And it's like that. We hear that even in perfection, it never stops growing. That reality is progressive, and it's eternally progressive.
I didn't want that stop on that day. I want that. But
yeah, well, we all kind of think like that, but that just gives us impetus to try and increase our connection with the holy name and our service and all these things.
Yeah.
Everything adds to it, bowing down before the deity and saying Krishna, 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 like, you know, with in a mood of calling out, you know, that mood of like, you know, inner kind of necessity and desperation Krishna appreciates. Yeah. I think I'm done for the day. Is that all right? You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really nice to talk to you. I'm always inspired to you know, to see someone who is, you know, has a good heart and wants to hear and, you know, engages in that kind of reciprocal transaction that has to do with finding out about the reality of our spiritual nature. And when that happens, you know, things come down in a very powerful way. And, you know, things that I say, sometimes, you know, when I hear them and feel them, I think, you know, I know that this has not come from me. There's something else happening here. And, you know, we're told it happens like that. That, you know, if the hearer is sincere and the chanter has some sincerity, actually we're told even if the chanter is not that developed, has conditioning and attachments and so many things, if the hearer is sincere, because the transmitter is the pure Vaishnava, he's not limited. It can come through the person who's not very developed and reach the heart of the person who's inquiring with full potency, because of the potency of Krishna and the potency of his servant, the pure Vaishnava. So things come to our heart by higher grace, and that grace is brought about in this world by sometimes the descent of gurus, and sometimes the, you know, upward realization of people who become gurus by their own purity. So, Jai Sri Rupananga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Nice to see you, Sandeep. Sandeep Prabhu, you are an inquirer, you are a seeker, and that is wonderful.
It's like I'm hungry to
yeah.
more and more and more.
Yes.
The more I learn, more I want more, I want more, I want more.
Yeah.
This is happening.
Srila Sridhar Maharaj was talking to one of his devotees, and he said, you know, you have to want this, you have to be hungry for this. And the devotee asked, well, how do you become hungry? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, associate with those who are hungry.
They also say you don't eat garbage.
Maybe, yeah.
You don't accept any surrogates. Surrogates is the right word?
Yeah, surrogates.
Natural hunger appears as the result of good health.
Yeah, it depends what kind of company we are in. Like we chose, as I said, I chose to turn left and walk 4 minutes, landed here.
Jai.
I chose to turn